Hi there. You're listening to the Tech Leaders Podcast, brought to you by Be Digital and Tramshed Tech. Today, you'll be hosted by Gareth Davies. Gareth will help you and our guests navigate some of the industry's most exciting topics, from the challenges of sustainable growth through to continuous innovation and everything in between. These are the behind-the-scenes stories from the leaders at the forefront of the digital revolution. So stop typing, close that laptop lid, and tune in for this episode of the Tech Leaders Podcast.
Failure shows you are pushing the boundaries. The one thing that successful people have in common is that ability to be resilient, to learn from something, bounce back stronger, not let it push them back, get them to keep going. And I think certainly as a 21-year-old, I was very fearful of making mistakes and failing.
The Financial Times is a 133-year-old organisation who have really swam against the tide and thrived in this digital age. It frequently gets venerated as amongst the most credible publications in the finance space and continues to be the benchmark for high-quality journalism within the financial market space. I was over the moon to get the CTO, Richard Rosenberg, onto the Tech Leaders Podcast to discuss his distinguished career and the world at large during these extraordinary times. We pick apart Richard's spells at Sky during a crucial time in their evolution. We also talk about Richard's time in the travel sector for Expedia during the outbreak of the pandemic and what the what that meant for him and his organization. We also talk about rolling out remote work at the drop of a hat during that period. But Richard also talks about his view on taking responsibility for your own career and what sort of lessons have served him well. We also cover blockchain, AI, and also the controversial topic of censorship and free speech, which was very interesting. Fascinating guy. He's actually running the London Marathon soon for the NSPCC, so we wish him all the best for that. I think you'll enjoy this one. It's a brilliant conversation, and he's a fascinating chap. It's Richard Rosenberg. Richard, thank you so much for coming on the Tech Leaders Podcast. How are you on this fine day?
I'm very well, thanks. Thanks for having me.
Everyone would have heard about the Financial Times, but they may not have heard of Richard Rosenberg. So could you give us a little introduction on yourself and a little bit of an overview on your career from point of education right up until today?
Yeah, sure. So, hello, everybody. I actually dreamed of being a pilot and studied aeronautical engineering at university, but this led me down the software engineering path, and I became a software engineer by trade. Now, it took me, I think, a few years to experiment and understand what I really enjoyed. And for me, it was actually creating digital products that humans interacted with and sort of software that solved real people problems that really excited me. And that led me to Sky. And it led me to Sky at a time when interactive TV was the future. And at the time, it really was. We did not have fast connections to the internet. We did not have these smartphones that ran our lives. And so being able to press the red button on your remote control, run a little piece of software and order a pizza, for example, was really a great customer proposition. And it was very exciting times. But then Apple and Google invented their new devices and their app ecosystems. We all got better connectivity to the internet, and pressing your red button was no longer the best solution to these problems. And it was at this point I actually learned, I think, a really valuable lesson for my own career. I was in the situation where I was leading this high-performing team. I'd grown, I was really proud of. We were delivering well. I was a success at Sky. And yet the company, quite rightly, wanted to take its focus away from my area and put its focus more on web development. And I remember at the time actually feeling really angry about that. I sort of felt like I was being punished for something that externally wasn't my fault. And the key learning I took from this that really has stayed with me is that you yourself have to be responsible for your own career. It is up to you to recognize where the next opportunity is for you, and it's nobody else is going to do it for you. For me, this was understanding where the strengths were in the interactive team, understanding where the next growth area would be, which I saw the mobile world, and being able to start experimenting with new apps on these devices, actually powered by our interactive services, as the data was similar, and really grasping that opportunity that really grew from there. It grew from just building apps to actually trying to get TV on these devices. And those devices expanded as we went on to games, consoles, tablets, and the like, as more and more got connected to the internet. One thing I think Sky is absolutely great at, and the thing I learned, is this sort of, I'll call it the agile product engineering process. I saw what could be achieved with just a small, cross-functional, empowered team, and we built really great products that changed how customers did very basic things like watch TV. We have Netflix now. We all take this for granted, but at the time, I thought it was really, really groundbreaking. From Sky, I wanted to get more experience on a global scale and experience in really a true e-commerce world. And I think I found both of those in the Expedia Group. It's one of the largest travel platforms in the world, and the owner of several global brands. I started my journey at hotels.com. And what I took from Expedia was really the power of data, and how you can use data not just to personalize the best experience for your customer, but to make the right decisions on any feature that you may think is better, but you don't know is better. They are absolute experts at taking someone from being a visitor and converting them into being a customer. It was also really fascinating to get an experience of a really global product. You had sort of understanding the differences, for example, between the homepage of a Japanese site and the homepage of a South Korean site, as sort of just an example of the sort of challenges we had to face, which I just personally found fascinating. And Expedia Group also gave me my first CTO role, where I luckily spent some time in San Francisco as the CTO of Hotwire, which is another Expedia brand. And then earlier this year, I moved to the fantastic institution that is the Financial Times, and I've been here for just over 6 months.
Fantastic. Well, that's a really, really nice overview and summary of your career, Richard. There's so much to unpack there, but I obviously want to concentrate the conversation on sort of the most exciting parts, I suppose. I want to go back to the Sky days. Okay, I suppose it was probably a crucial time in the 2010s for Sky, and you talk about Netflix being sort of the norm these days. But you guys, the Sky Active thing, and you almost created the first TV operating system in the UK there, didn't you? That was quite a new concept at the time. Talk us through that sort of product development process and rolling that out.
Yes, I think you're absolutely right. The process really has to start with what is the customer problem? What problem are you trying to solve? And what services do you want to create that just makes your overall Sky subscription more unique, more valuable? And in sort of the early days of this, as I said, when there weren't competitors on the other devices, because we didn't have those devices, we were looking at everything from enhancing the actual your TV viewing experience, from showing different camera angles on a football game, to enhancing news and being able to vote on certain issues, to the more actual commercial. I mean, right at the start, we actually had very successful shops like Dixon's actually on the platform, so you could shop as well.
Yeah, I think there was nothing before that where you could interact with your TV, though, was there? To my knowledge, I think it was the first one whereby the viewer can literally, play games, purchase things or whatever. Am I right, Richard? Was it the first?
Yeah, so I think the key, if you sort of wind right back, the traditional way of delivering TV to the customer was an analog signal, right? So you put an aerial on your house, and this signal came down and went into the back of your TV, and your TV knew how to uh, make that look like the video and audio. Sky actually had digital TV. So the content was being broadcast via satellite in a digital format into a set-top box that went into your home. And that set-top box, you could actually transmit data that wasn't just TV and audio. You could actually transmit data which were sort of little computer programs that could then run on your set-top box and deliver these games or whatever application it is.
Yeah, was the UK quite ahead of the curve in global terms then to have that type of technology in their TV sets? Was it or set-top boxes? Was it pretty much happening all around the world simultaneously?
So I think the UK does have quite a mature market in this space, and did have quite a mature market in this space, and certainly in this sort of enhanced TV or interactive TV space in the early days, we were real leaders. I mean, it was Sky the platform. It wasn't just Sky the broadcaster. There were other companies out there on the platform doing quite exciting things as well. But yes, I personally thought we were real leaders in this space.
Sure. And what did you take from working in, a technology sort of almost pioneer like Sky, a company, in the media space, but doing a lot of cool new things and pushing the industry forward? What did you take from that 16 years or whatever you were there that benefited you within travel, working for an organization, an equally disruptive organization like Expedia? What lessons did you learn from Sky which helped you at Expedia?
Yeah, as I touched on before, I think it was this, I'll say, agile product engineering process. The actual way of creating these software products that solve real customer problems, and doing that by putting together cross-functional, empowered teams who can really understand the customer problems and iterate on what the final product looks like, and constantly evolve that product over time.
Yeah, absolutely. And what did you learn from Expedia then? What kind of technology innovation was coming out of there at the time when you joined there that you were were you quite impressed? Were you quite surprised by what was going on there when you joined?
As mentioned, from Expedia, I think they have a world-class product testing or A/B testing capability. I was very impressed at how every single feature on that page has been properly tested with customers to understand how best you can convert someone from coming to the site to actually becoming a customer and buying a hotel room. And I literally mean every single feature. If you think of the checkout page on any e-commerce site, which is obviously you in a simple format, you will just think, well, this is a page where I just enter my name and address and put my credit card in. How complicated could that be? But we spent lots of time iterating over different ways of displaying those bits of information, and getting the customer to, as simply as possible, put in the information that we need, and being comfortable and confident that they're making a safe purchase. The thing with buying a hotel room is, I think it's always quite a nervous, unless you are booking somewhere, you know where you're going, you've stayed in this hotel before, you're always sort of, well, is this the right hotel? How confident am I that I'm doing the right thing? And so things you can do to make it more safer for the customer. We just tested everything.
Yeah, because I suppose, during your time there, probably a huge amount of the purchases coming through Expedia were by people who were used to booking holidays through travel agents. So if they're doing it online for the first time, it's quite a nerve-wracking experience, isn't it? Because, you just don't feel like you've got that wraparound, that ownership. You know what I mean? It's like Expedia is just it's just a website. It doesn't, it doesn't feel quite as reassuring as talking to a travel agent. Maybe it's all changed now, but maybe when at that time anyway, at least for a lot of people, I would have thought.
The other thing that changed while I was there was the advancement in machine learning and AI, and what you could do with. I think Expedia Group has something like 70 terabytes of data that it has on the hotels, uh, on all the things that it's trying to sell and all the things that it knows about each individual. So using AI to try and make sense of that data and present exactly the right view of that to each customer is something that we really saw the power of. Something simple, sort of a real example of this, when you book a hotel and you go to you click on the sort of hotel that you like the look of. Effectively, each hotel has, say, depending on the size of the hotel, it might have 20 or 30 different pictures of the hotel, from the pool to the room to the lobby, etc., etc. And we used a machine learning algorithm that all it didn't change any of these pictures. It just changed the order in which you saw those pictures and which picture was going to be the sort of hero image, the biggest picture you see as your default. And that had a multiple £1 million impact. Just something as simple as reordering the images had such a big impact.
It's all about what you said earlier on, though, Richard, isn't it? It's all about you've got to completely look what the customer wants, what is going to make them feel comfortable, and work back from that outcome, I suppose. And you're absolutely right. Little things like that, it infuriates me sometimes on Airbnb when you go to book something, but there's not a, if you're booking a room in London, I want to see the room. I don't want to see a picture of the Houses of Parliament. Do you know what I mean, though? And you see this on Airbnb. It drives me wild. I want to see you want to see where you're staying, not a picture of the local area. So yeah, little things like that.
But that's you, and that's the important thing. You want a certain thing from when you book a hotel. Some people might have young kids who are just mad on the pool, and so the most important thing for them would be just pictures of the pool, because they don't care about the room. All rooms in the hotels are the same to them. They want to know what the pool area looks like.
Have you been talking to my daughter? That's exactly what she would say. Yeah, absolutely. And
other people might think it's the restaurant I'm going for, or it's the I think that's the key. Everyone is different.
Yeah, that's really smart. That what you're pointing out there, I completely agree. Okay, great. Well, look, I wanted to ask you about the pandemic. Okay, you were working in probably the heaviest hit industry of all. Well, give or take. There's a lot of heavy hit, a lot of industries which struggled, but travel was particularly bad. It was particularly brutal, and it was particularly well publicized. Talk us through the feeling in Expedia during that time, and what you were doing what the company was doing to keep the staff motivated, and what are you doing as a leader to keep your staff motivated?
So, yeah, people use the word, or have used the word, unprecedented a lot in these times, but absolutely, this was new territory globally for a lot of people, and certainly, as you say, the travel business was particularly affected when there was a pandemic that stopped people from traveling. Absolutely. I think, though, if you're trying to look at how Expedia reacted as a company, which was brilliantly in my view, and what I did, what we can take away from this, I think the first thing that the pandemic did bring was real clarity on what the priorities were for the whole company. And what this meant was it was easier for teams across the company and across the globe. Expedia is a global company with thousands of people right across the whole world. but it was easy for them to come together and actually deliver. The speed at which we got changes out to our products, out to our web and mobile apps was, I think, actually quite amazing to see. It really hammered home, actually, the importance of that clarity of priorities across a large company. And that's something I think we can all take from that quite often in a large company, you have several different groups, teams that all have slightly different priorities. And when you're trying to come together to deliver a feature, it's actually really hard. That was one thing that was actually quite positive from it. And that the fact that everyone was pulling together and delivering helped, I think, with everyone's motivation. Everyone had focus on what they actually had to do right now, and focusing on what we had to do now without having sort of anxiety and worry about what could or couldn't happen in the future was really, really important. Secondly, I thought Expedia Group were very good at looking for any opportunity in the crisis. A couple of real examples from my side, from the technology side, were all around, I guess, either undertaking key migrations or getting rid of tech debt that had been there for a while, all with the point that we would be in a much healthier shape when we came out of the pandemic. It was also possible to, excuse me, take more risk with rolling out features as the traffic and the possible negative impact was so low. We knew that the sort of effectively the business numbers were going to be unprecedentedly bad, so we could actually use this as an opportunity to take more risk. The final piece, and it may be the piece that is really, really important, was having real empathy as to what we were all going through, and trying to communicate as openly and honestly as we could with all our people, even though obviously we did not have all the answers. We did not know. One thing at the start of the pandemic, as things were sort of before it was a global pandemic, but it was quite regionalized, there were various predictions as to what this could mean. All of those predictions have been wrong. So we knew we didn't know the answers, but just trying to communicate as effectively as we could with people was, I think, really, really important, and giving people that space to make sure they were mentally fit as much as possible.
Yeah. So in terms of how you actually executed that, then are you talking sort of, because it was kind of a situation whereby on the Friday the tourism industry was still pretty buoyant, and then the following Friday there was nothing going on, and obviously nobody was in the office. So did you just start rolling out a plan for Teams calls every morning, or was how did it generally look? What was the sort of knee-jerk strategy reaction to this in terms of managing the teams?
I don't know how we would compare to other people who had to do this. Generally, we were in the situation where people could work from any office, could work from any desk, were quite portable anyway, if you see what I mean. That was how we worked before the pandemic. So, and we are a global company that had offices everywhere, and so it was sort of common that we jumped on video conferences, use of Slack, those kinds of things. We were all used to how we communicate with people across different offices, and we were all able to work from anywhere. So the actual impact of saying, okay, on a Friday, Monday, you're going to work from home, we sort of had a bit of warning that this was going to happen, ensured that we could make it happen, and then the actual act of us all working from home was probably, we were better prepared than a lot of other companies were. So from a technology perspective and sort of the tools you need in order to be able to operate in this, we were pretty well set up. The other thing that we practically did, because it's not just all about technology, it's about people as well. And we did various things in order just to keep that connection almost outside of any work things. I personally started I think it was an 8:30 a.m. almost stand up, open stand up every morning with my leadership team, where we said we're not going to talk about any work. You can join or you can not join, but just join and we'll connect before the day starts. We had sort of Friday afternoon things where we would just join and not talk about work, just to try and keep those connections going as we were all locked down in our bedrooms and we didn't actually know what was going to happen.
Absolutely. It was a terrifying time for everyone, really. Well, a period of uncertainty for everyone, I think it's fair to say. So, the end of 2020 then, you obviously made a big decision. You'd been at Expedia for quite a long time. Where did the FT opportunity, where did it come from? And talk us through that period in your life, that transition over to FT.
So I would say generally, I am somebody who wants to keep growing, keep learning, keep pushing myself. And I have tried to do that, even if I haven't been moving companies a lot, because I've been looking for, I think I had 3 or 4 different roles at Expedia and a number of different roles at Sky. But I think Expedia was a great company, and it was actually a good situation to be in, because I knew there would have to be a pull rather than me being pushed for any new opportunity. I fortunately, I say fortunately now because of I'm loving my new role. I fortunately got a call. The Financial Times is a fantastic brand, and it sort of grabbed my attention. And went through quite a lengthy process. And as I was sort of getting deeper into the process, it became more and more obvious what a fantastic opportunity it was, what a great place the Financial Times would be to work, how I thought it really. I identified with the Financial Times mission. I identified with the values that I could see, and so I thought I would do well there. And it sort of things started to fit into place. And so, yes, I made the jump at the end of last year and started early this year.
Hi, just a quick reminder that you're listening to the Tech Leaders Podcast. The Tech Leaders Podcast would like to thank Tramshed Tech, who allow us to use their world-class recording studio facilities. We cannot recommend them enough. They also provide office spaces and events, so make sure you go and check them out. Now, back to Gareth, who will be quizzing our guests on some of the industry's most topical questions.
You came in as the CTO. What challenges were you faced with when you joined the FT, and what are you doing to sort of to improve the technology element of the organization?
Yeah, it's been a fantastic 6 months. I'm very aware of the fact that it is such a great institution, and actually the wonderful thing you see from joining is that with everyone you meet, whichever area they're in, the company's core values around trust, integrity, and truth, wanting to do the right thing, really shine through. The reality is, when I joined, like many people over the last 18 months, I started a new role at a new company. And on my first day, I was sitting in exactly the same place. I was sitting at the last day at Expedia. I joined virtually. And the FT manages this process really effectively. So I got up to speed quite quickly. And the thing that surprised me was that you didn't have the usual worries about where the meeting room was or where to go to lunch or where the toilet is. I knew all of those things. It meant I could get up to speed very quickly and getting stuck into the detail of the different challenges. So my role simply really is to lead the technology function, which is quite wide ranging at a company like the FT. There are a set of teams undertaking sort of the digital development of our online product, right through to the IT service desk and providing all of our journalists and teams all around the world a safe and effective tools and technology to have a really great remote experience and be able to do their job. The actual challenges is the thing I'm most excited about is our new product strategy and delivering on that, and setting up the technology function to be able to enhance our digital product set. So I think the FT has actually been really good, even though it is an organization that is well over 100 years old. I think if you looked at any organization, certainly in media, that's been around that long, it can only survive by being able to recognize innovation and when it has to change.
To add to this point, because I think you're going into really good territory here, is a lot of people will look at publications like the FT, the New York Times, the sort of broadsheets in the UK as well, the other, the sort of the Times, the Telegraph, etc., and would have written you guys off in the advent of the digital age, but the FT seemed to be thriving. So this is what I wanted to chuck in there. So yeah, if you can talk us through how you're achieving that would be great.
And if you sort of wind back, I think the FT was firstly very good and quick to recognize that you needed a really solid digital presence and to be successful at doing that. But I think it was really ahead of the game in actually understanding its core was its journalism. It could not just depend on digital advertising, and therefore needed to move to a subscription strategy and needed to be able to successfully get people to pay for its news content. And I think they've done that. Actually, they were sort of a lot more advanced and have done that a lot better than some other big titles have done. Right now, I think it's another time, it's another point, maybe it's a constant thing where we are looking at sort of what is the next phase of growth, what is next in our product strategy in order to sell more relevant products to our customers. And what we are doing is creating different pillars, each with a specific focus, which means it's all powered by our award-winning journalism behind the FT, but it means it's a lot more than just a sort of website and a mobile app. It's a lot more than ft.com. There's a community pillar, which is focused on forming connections with the content, with expertise across our customers, and about helping sort of groups of professionals to help each other and make sense of the industry they're in to be more successful. There's enterprise and specialist pillars, which are about helping professionals execute their jobs faster, giving them sort of the right business information tools to support the better decisions that they need to make. And so there's a lot more than just a website. And the core for us is being able to leverage sort of the knowledge, the intelligence that's embedded in the journalism, the actual expertise and insight that you can get from, we've got like 130 years of just really good quality journalism. If you think about something like the UK leaving the EU and Brexit, actually in the FT, you've got a whole load of journalism as to what the country was feeling the other side of it when we entered the common market many years ago. And so it's really interesting. There's so much actually really great content that we have at the FT that can be used, and we can leverage some of these data technologies that I was touching on before to really provide, I think, very engaging insight. And from a technology perspective, this really means being able to deliver a a lot more in parallel and set up your architecture so you can get lots of different development teams all delivering independently.
Yeah, no, absolutely. That's really interesting insight there, Richard. I think the listeners would have taken a lot from that. But I wanted to ask you as well about what sort of in terms of the way not just your industry is moving forward, but in terms of the future of IT innovation in general, sort of like AI, quantum computing, all these buzzwords you hear about. What sort of tweaks your interest, and what do you think is going to have the most impact, not only in your industry, but is going to have the most impact, in the world, in terms of the world of technology, the way data media is consumed, and all that type of thing. What are you interested in right now?
So we've touched on it, and it's interesting if we sort of focus on news and media first. I think if we look at the last 10 years or so, you would have to say the impact of mobile devices and increased connectivity, that's the biggest thing that's changed our lives, right? And news and media have been real beneficiaries of this wave. It is a mobile first world. Personally, in the next sort of 5 to 10 years, and the challenge with all of these sorts of predictions is they're likely to be wrong. But personally, I do not see that there's going to be that level of change in the actual physical device or product set. For me, it's all about the data and content. There is going to be lots more data available from lots of different sources. From If everyone has a doorbell on their street that takes a video when someone walks past, then theoretically you could have live video of your street, right? And so there's you could get anything from video from doorbells to new insight mined from the statistics that's out there. And the challenge and innovation has to be around how you present a relevant set of content packaged and presented to a customer in a coherent form. And if we're talking about this data and content, you have to talk about privacy and trust. I think here is big. There's going to be big changes here over the next 5 to 10 years. We have all heard the term fake news, and with the latest technology, you can actually fake anything. Uh, Literally, you can fake video of anyone saying anything that is quite convincing, and anyone can claim to be a journalist, right? Anyone can put their views online. They can have their own website. They can use some of the social networks out there. So being able to trust and verify content, I think, is going to be the key to this. And there are some really interesting companies trying to look at where the content is coming from, who's reposting it, what sites is it being on, to try and sort of come up with some sort of trust score of each piece of news. And I think that's a really, really interesting place. I'm always personally fascinated by consumer tech. I'm always personally looking for the next gadget or service that does like some specific thing I'm interested in really well. My last probably foolish purchase was this little device that attaches to my running shoe and tells me so much more data than I could ever use about my running technique. But yeah, I'm always fascinated by that. And I think I'm still an all-round aviation nerd. And I'm interested to see how the aviation industry is going to cope with some of the technology that can be used around automation as that becomes more prevalent and as new greener power options are developed.
Absolutely. Let me just rewind back a little bit there, because I want to get your thoughts on something. I think I mentioned it before about maybe covering this territory. It's very specific. I want to ask you about NFTs and blockchain technology, distributed computer systems. How can they potentially affect content creation in the media sort of space over the next 5 to 10 years? A lot of people are going crazy about this stuff. They think it's the future. What do you think, Richard?
I think, and this may be rather controversial, that blockchain is this smart technology that has been looking for a solution for a while, but hasn't quite found the real use case as yet. And it is one of these things, and we've seen them over the years. They sort of come and go. That has a huge amount of hype. I mean, obviously, blockchain has a huge amount of hype because of digital currencies and the like. But personally, because of the power that's needed to actually scale these things, I'm not convinced blockchain is the answer.
Well, what about AI then? Do you think AI is going to impact your industry significantly over the next couple of years? And if so, in what areas do you think?
Yes, and I would say AI is probably going to impact many industries over the next few years. Specifically, I do not think there is a substitute for fantastic journalism. Again, it's a personal view, but I do not think we will, certainly at the Financial Times anyway, get to a point where a robot is replaced all the journalists and a robot is writing all the stories. Absolutely not. But I think what AI can be used for is to automate a lot of the sort of a lot of the things that now are done by a human. And an example of that could be that a load of files are released with a huge amount of information in. They're sort of released to WikiLeaks or they're released some other way. A journalist gets hold of a huge amount of data and needs some way of trying to get through that data as quick as possible. You could use tools to help with that process. You could use tools to do things that right now, if a company always writes a review of a annual report, that happens all the time. You could get tools to help with that kind of thing. So yes, I think it will really impact and give us more ability to do more. But it's all powered by a human journalist in my mind. As touched on before, I think some way as well of using it to understand what's fake and what isn't, I think is quite an interesting area to get into as well.
Right. I want to ask you a question about that then, Richard. I know we've gleaned upon it in the last couple of minutes, but I think censorship, okay? Censorship is a controversial topic, okay, and has been for the last couple of years, especially since the Trump campaign. It really has taken the center stage just because he was accusing everything as being fake news. And there's a duty of care by government and by big corporations to censor stuff which is complete garbage and is dangerous, I suppose. But how far should that censorship go? Has it gone too far? You know, it's got to the point content creators, if they use certain buzzwords on their YouTube channel, they'll get taken down. You know, I mean, it's so I know there's a lot of people who are discontented about it. A lot of libertarians who think it's, you know, the censorship is going too far. I'm not necessarily asking you for the FT's stance on this. I'm asking you for Richard's stance on this. What do you think about censorship, and how do we keep it sensible?
So you asked a few questions there. One may have been sort of for a company like Facebook, for example, what should their view be? And I think you asked what's my own view on censorship and free speech. So I think simply my view is we have laws in this country, and those laws do talk about some of the things you are allowed to say and not say, and quite rightly so. And each country around the world has its own view as to what you can and can't say. And for the most part, if you stick to that, you should be able to say and have an opinion that's respected about anything. So I don't mind in my usual day. I actually quite like it interacting with people who think differently to me. I actually welcome it. I love it. I love having discussions with people who come at it. They've had a very different background to me. They've got a very different way of thinking. I am happy to hear their opinion. I'm happy to listen to them. I respect it. I'm also happy to completely ignore it and go with my own opinion at the end of the day. I think that is really, really healthy. But as said earlier, I think there is a line which is described in our laws as to what you can and can't do.
Yeah, absolutely. No, well put. And yeah, I think free speech is important, but obviously we have to be sensible because some things are dangerous, aren't they? So, yeah, okay, great. Well, look, I think there was a couple of things I wanted to ask you about. I think we're coming towards the end now. So, tell us about Richard outside of work. You're into running, clearly. You mentioned that earlier on.
I think it might be too much to say I'm into running. I think if we start with the most important. So I'm happily married to Lorna, and we have 3 wonderful boys. Although the eldest is actually now just about to start university in September, so he's no longer technically a boy, I think. Other than those basics, actually thinking about this question, tell me about Richard. I think it's important to recognize actually the difficulties we have all faced over the last 18 months. I'd consider myself lucky. I think my circumstances are fortunate, but I have found it really tough at times over this period of lockdown. And all of this led to, I think, 2 key decisions for me. Firstly, I wanted to take my sporadic jogging to the next level and actually give myself both a physical and mental challenge. And secondly, I wanted to try and raise a bit of money for people who may not have the best circumstances, who are really struggling, and recognize that a lot of this cohort is actually children of all ages as well as adults. And so all of this has led me to, I'm hopefully going to run the London Marathon in October for the NSPCC, a great charity. If I could shamelessly plug them, please do donate. And selfishly, though, I would testify to the mental health benefits that I have got over the last 12 months or so since I've been sort of training, of just regularly getting out there in the morning, putting one foot in front of the other. I think it's been really, really beneficial to me. So I would recommend that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's brilliant, Richard. I mean, a lot of people, I did that myself, actually. I hated running, but got into it over the lockdown. And I feel a lot better off for it. Getting out in the fresh air. I actually quite like running in the rain. When it's bad weather, I get excited. Don't like running when it's...
I'm not fast. I'm not a good runner.
Yeah.
I just run a lot.
Well, you don't need to be fast to do a marathon. You just need to be you just need to be able to go for a long time, I suppose. But look, massive congratulations on taking the decision to do the marathon, and big good luck as well. I mean, fantastic cause. Yeah, I know a little bit about the NSPCC. They're a fantastic organization, so we wish you all the best. Couple of questions to wrap up then. What career advice would you give to your 21-year-old self, Richard?
Great question. So I think I don't know, there's probably maybe a set of values that I've always had, but now I'm much more sure of them. But I would maybe reiterate to my younger self the importance of constantly challenging yourself, making sure you're always learning and growing, remembering it's okay to change your goals or not know the long-term answer, but just focus on what you need to do now. But I think the one thing that I would say to my 21-year-old self is not to let the fear of failure stop you from making a decision. Actually, failure shows you are pushing the boundaries. And I think the one thing that successful people have in common is that ability to be resilient, to learn from something, bounce back stronger, not let it push them back, get them to keep going. And I think certainly as a 21-year-old, I was very fearful of making mistakes and failing.
Yeah, absolutely. Analysis is paralysis. I think someone who's a lot smarter than me said before, and I think I tend to think of that. So, and what person, book, or anecdote have you been inspired by? Maybe over the lockdown, or maybe just as throughout any part of your career, really. But any book recommendations or anything?
Well, so there are 2 people that I think I would call out. Firstly, I mean, I was fortunate at my time at Sky to see and be inspired by Sir Dave Brailsford. And it is truly breathtaking how he has transformed cycling, not just for the UK Olympic team, but also what was the Sky professional team. It's now Ineos. I genuinely think if you made him the England football manager, England would have won the World Cup years ago.
That's a bold claim, Richard.
He is amazing. And there are so many things that he talks about that are applicable in a sort of software product engineering world. And I would absolutely recommend you searching for him on YouTube and listen to how he talks about empowering teams, focusing on the detail and making sure every area is the best it can possibly be. And another, perhaps less famous, but still, I think, inspirational person is a chap called Marcus Childs, who, again, I was fortunate to meet at Sky. He has such an engaging way of talking about the power of positive thinking, and whatever the situation, whatever your role is, whatever has happened, being able to sort of be the best you can be and look at any task positively. It's easy to say, isn't it? Just be positive, right? But the way I think he phrases things really, really well.
Yeah, for sure. Well, look, Richard, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I've really enjoyed this conversation. Okay, so where can people find you, and where can people sponsor you for your run, the London Marathon? When is it?
I think the easiest way may be on LinkedIn. And what I might do is make sure that my link to my NSPCC is a Virgin money giving page is on there.
Sure. We will post something on LinkedIn, and you can maybe put that in the comments and people can find the thing there.
That would be brilliant.
We wish you all the best with that, Richard, and it would be great to stay in touch. Thank you so much for coming on the Tech Leaders podcast.
Thank you. It's been great.
Thanks for listening to the Tech Leaders podcast with your host, Gareth Davies. We hope you enjoyed our deep dive into all things tech. If you're keen to learn more, make sure you tune in to our next episode. A huge shout out to Be Digital, who make this podcast possible. Go check them out at bedigitaluk.com to gain expert help on enabling your organisation to become lean, agile and attract the right talent. That's bedigitaluk.com. Join the tech revolution with the Tech Leaders podcast.